Hi everybody, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame and welcome back. First off, thanks for all the nice comments people have made about the previous two videos that I did with a partner. I really enjoyed having someone to riff off of, and I'm hoping to do more of those in the future as our mutual schedules allow. I'm hoping to have a variety of different photographers to come on these videos with me and critique images and give you insight into what it means to make a good street photograph. This week I'm solo, so I'm sorry if you were expecting someone else marvelous to be on, but maybe next time. So before we just jump into the images, I just want to talk a little about ways that you can support this channel and the Candid Frame podcast. Over the years, I've written a series of ebooks on street photography, one of which is the Candid Frame Guide to Street Photography. And those are available for a really affordable price of either $7 or $8. And you can find them on our website at thecandidframe.com, or you'll find a link below. So if you like the content that you're seeing on this video, but you want to actually read something and sort of take something in at a more leisurely pace, check that out. Now, I know a lot of people are getting back out to photograph. Many people have been, like me, relegated to their homes for, months. And so street photography has not been something we've been able to practice. But increasingly, it is going to be changing, and hopefully we'll have a chance to indulge our love for street photography and hopefully doing it in a safe way. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about is this idea that I sometimes reference as the dancing that happens on the street. And I don't literally mean, someone doing a pirouette on a sidewalk, or some, hip hopper doing some dancing on a piece of cardboard or anything like that. I'm talking about the interaction of people and things and elements within a scene. That for me is the dance. Some shots can be very boring because it's just a single subject against a background. But for me, what's really fascinating is when I have very disparate elements in the scene, usually a variety of different people, and I can create the illusion of synchronicity as if all of those figures are playing off of each other. And it's a difficult thing to capture because there's so many things you have to pay attention to, but it can be done. And so I chose 3 images that I think really help to illustrate that point. So let's take a look. Here we have an image by Sagi Korter. This was created with a Leica Q at 1/500th of a second, f5.6, ISO 400. Now, for me, the dance is this mirrored action between these two, as they're waiting for the bus, and at the same time, they start looking in their bags for something. We have the mirroring of their arms, their heads, and their eyes downturned, looking into their respective bags. And that, for me, is kind of like the dance that I'm talking about. This mirroring, this sort of synchronized moment between these two within this scene. And that's one of the things that I'm often looking for, not so much mirroring all the time, but some sort of gesture or body language or physical expression that is more than just someone standing there or just walking down the street. When someone is doing something, when they take on an action or a gesture, their bodies take on shape more than just this straight, body moving through space. Their legs, their arms, the tilt of their head, they provide a graphic element, which for me is as important as any other physical elements that may be in the scene, like including this bus kiosk and the way this guy who is seated is framed by it, or the shape of the chair, or the repeating squares that are on the sidewalk, or the shapes in the elements in the background. I don't necessarily look at these two people as people. They are certainly that, and they're doing something interesting physically. But when they're in the midst of an action, of a gesture, I look at them graphically. And when I have one or more people that are creating shapes that can riff off of each other, that is what I'm talking about when I talk about the dance. Having these two mirror each other, almost exactly is part of that. That's what makes the shot interesting for me. If they were just standing there, just looking in the direction of the bus as the guy who's seated, the shot wouldn't be particularly interesting. We would look at these people just in terms of their clothing, their age, their sex. It would just be, well, here are three people waiting for a bus. What's to care about? But here, it's not so. It's not just the gesture; it's the shape that these people take on. For me personally, that's what makes the shot interesting, and it's this kind of stuff that I always try to keep an eye out for, because the dance can sometimes result in pictures that are very complex, but that make perfect sense when you see it within the context of the frame. All right, here we have a shot by Barry Collins. We have no XF data here. So here we have some young people that are taking a leap into the ocean or a sea somewhere. And you can see the whole story is being spelled out here. We have this one fellow who's diving into the water. We have these other kids who are already in the water swimming. You have these other young people on the ledge or the edge of whatever structure this is, waiting to take their turn and jumping into the water. And we have these, what I would assume are fishing boats in the background. So literally what's happening here is people are just taking a dive into the sea. They're swimming. But again, just like with the previous shot, I'm looking in terms of the dance, the interplay of shapes and line and gesture and how they play off of each other. Now, the most dramatic gesture, the most dramatic body language is obviously this young man here, who's caught in midair just before he hits the water. So his body, especially his extended arm, the cross feet here, is really nicely defined. I wish he was more cleanly defined here to the right, that this boat wasn't here. But because of the light that's hitting him on the edge, we do get some nice separation between him and the boat. So that helps it greatly for me. And I like the fact that this arm is clearly separated between here. But again, his shape is the more dramatic, the more graphic of any of other body shapes in this shot. We see some other kids here moving through the water. We have this young man here who is not being as brave as this guy is and taking a dive right here. We have this young boy moving here. So the other body language, which is second to this one in terms of just expression, is this one, because you can see his tentativeness as he's about to leap in. And then you have these other people that are just sitting there watching as the other people move in. But it's not just about the variety of human body language in the scene, right, in terms of those shapes. Part of this is also the shapes of the boats, especially the sail in the background. You can see, all these triangular shapes that repeat themselves throughout, which is mirrored here in the line of the body and the terms of the feet, and and as I've said in other videos, that repetition of triangles is a really nice way of sort of strengthening the overall bones of a photograph. And for me, that dance it's not just a shot of a single person jumping in the water. We've all made those shots, right? So if you make a shot of someone jumping in the water and all we see is the figure and the water, yeah, it may be kind of cool, but we quickly move on to the next shot because there's really not enough meat on the bones. There's nothing for us that really calls on us to really explore not only what else is in the image, but to really enjoy the image and slowly take it in. In this kind of shot, it's really rich with having a variety of different shapes, lines, but also storytelling elements that give us a sense of what this moment is about, and where it's located, and the characters involved in the telling of this story. And that for me is also part of the dance. It's not just the physicality, it's also about the relationship of elements that help tell a narrative. So in one respect, yes, it's about just graphics, but another part of it is like, okay, what am I telling the viewer about this scene, about this moment, and about these characters? And those are the kinds of images I always aspire to make. I don't always succeed in making pictures like that, but that's always the goal. And when I pull it off, it makes me very happy. Okay, here we have a shot by Nicolas Reyes. We don't have any XF data here. Now here's a simpler shot. We have some people here in Vietnam that are posing on the tree. We have one kid climbing the tree. We have another woman sitting on the tree on the left-hand side. So you have all these different people that in a variety of ways are leveraging the tree for different purposes. One man here seems to be looking in the direction of the photographer, so Nicholas may have been photographing him for the purposes of a portrait, but included all these other figures in the frame. And what's really interesting for me in terms of this shot is the way that everyone is experiencing the tree, how everyone's using the tree, how everyone's relating to the tree. Again, as with the previous shot, the most dramatic, the most interesting body language and gesture is with the man in the blue shirt and the khaki pants. His outstretched arm leaning on the tree, the way his feet are displayed, even the way his knee is sort of bent, his right knee is bent, is a really sort of interesting graphic element that really complements everything else that's happening graphically with the tree and the leaves and the branches. And then we have these other characters. You have the kid in the upper right-hand corner that's trying to negotiate, probably climbing a little higher on the tree. We have the little girl on the left in the blue dress. We have another kid who's slightly climbing up, and this girl immediately above him. And we have the older woman in the back that's sitting on another part of this tree looking to the left. We do have that fellow or that woman on the far left who's wearing some sort of backpack or strapped bag. If I have any complaint about that image, it's the presence of that person in the frame, because we're just seeing someone's back and it really doesn't add to it. But if that person wasn't there, I think that this would be a really, really good shot. But we're dealing with that distraction, and I understand that if this is a popular location for people to make photographs, you can't always tell people to move for the sake of your image. But if you're aware of it and you just try to do the best you can, I can live with that. But again, for me, the dance is how these different characters in here are relating to the tree, and the resulting differences in terms of body language, the shapes that they create. The little girl on the right hand is probably the most static element in this shot. She's just standing straight with her arms straight down. But look at everybody else. We have the kid in the upper right-hand corner. You have the other kid climbing at the base of the tree. We have this little girl whose arms are still at her side, but her head is downturned. And I really love the old woman with the hand coming up to her mouth. If that person in the pink top wasn't there, I think this shot would rank even higher in terms of my appreciation of the image. But I nevertheless appreciate the effort. The fact that the photographer nevertheless recognized the potential of these various elements and just didn't move in tight to get a close-up of the guy posing at the tree. And that's one of the things I'm always trying to do when I'm photographing. Something may draw my attention, right? Like if I was just walking and I saw this guy, I might be inclined to make a photograph myself, even though I don't know him. But I would start thinking about, well, what else is there? What other materials do I have to play with? And when I see other people or other elements in the scene, I start thinking about, well, can I add this? Can I add this? Can I add that? How much can I add to the shot before it completely falls apart? Because sometimes those additions make the shot so much more interesting. It can also make it a hot mess, but I get to a point where I'm willing to risk a hot mess to make a more complex, more interesting shot than just simply making a shot that's safe and that I've already done before. All right, thanks for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed that. If you like what you're hearing on this channel, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. And if you want to find out more about the work that I do at the Candid Frame, you can go to thecandidframe.com, and there you'll find my podcast, where I feature conversations with photographers from all over the world, from every genre, not just street photography. I had a recent conversation with Cherise May and Ildris Solomon, two African-American photojournalists and photographers. We talked about recent events, but also about different aspects of photographing one's community from a variety of different perspectives. So I think you may really enjoy not only the discussion of photography, but just some of the things that photographers have to consider when they're deciding to photograph a community that's not their own. So check it out. And if you like what you're seeing here, come on back and I'll see you next time.